Hello and welcome back to this week's edition of Premier League Predictions with myself, Matthew Christ, and Brian McClair alongside me here, the great strike partnership that we've been all throughout the season. And Brian, the fixtures keep coming thick and fast. We've just been through a midweek round of fixtures that saw some pretty interesting games, but with minimal time in between, we crack on with the weekend fixtures. So you haven't had that much time to do your research.
No, but there's plenty of incidents that occurred midweek, and there's quite a few interesting fixtures coming up this weekend over the 3 days, Saturday, Sunday, and there's another Monday evening game for us to ponder.
Yeah, who could forget? So let's start off with the Saturday lunchtime game, 12:30. It's Everton, fresh from a Merseyside derby defeat against Arsenal.
Well, in all competitions, Arsenal have only won 3 of their last 26 visits to Merseyside. So that's at both Liverpool and Everton, drawing 10 and losing 13 of those as well. And good news for Arsenal fans, after 101 days out with a hamstring injury, it takes Saka just 7 minutes to score on his return. Coming off the bench to score a goal that ended up being the winning goal for Arsenal during the week, that kept up their slight chances of winning the title. Everton are winless in their last 4 against Arsenal, and incredibly, after last night's games, James Tarkowski is available for selection after that tackle in the Merseyside derby. There was a lot to talk about in the Merseyside derby, of course. Everton 0, Arsenal 2.
Yeah, well, I mean, we often delve back into your era, but I think even back in your day, that would have been a red card, wouldn't it?
Well, I mean, I walked into an establishment where the game was on, and I saw it just as a kind of almost live event, and I was like, wow, that's what's happened there. That's and you're first of all, you're hoping that McAllister is not injured, and then you find out that it's almost immediately, I think this was a half time, that it was a yellow card, and astonishing, really.
Yeah,
I just thought that VAR couldn't interfere because the referee had made the decision, but afterwards I realised that they had reviewed it and decided that to uphold the on-field decision, and I think that only the 2 people who were involved in that were in any agreement whatsoever that was a yellow card.
Yeah, so not just one, but 2 sets of eyes saw that as not a red card, although subsequently the PGMOL have just said that they've made a mistake and they should have overridden the decision and given a red. So they have come out and clarified that.
I think both people who were involved in the decision last night will find themselves being demoted from their posts for a short period of time.
Yeah, I think they'll have the weekend off. Okay, the 3:00 game Saturday. It's a feisty derby by all accounts. It's Crystal Palace versus Brighton.
Each of Brighton's last 5 Premier League games at Palace have ended in a draw. And it's been a 1-1 scoreline in all those games. No specific fixture in top flight history has finished with the exact same score in 6 consecutive matches. I'm not going to predict that. I'll go for Palace 2, Brighton 0.
Okay, and it's Ipswich who are still fighting for their lives after a result in midweek against Wolves team who have probably got their sandals on now, don't you think?
Well, I mean, you would have thought that after their victory on Tuesday night, but Ipswich winning on Wednesday's kind of changed that a little bit. I think there's 9 points between them coming into this fixture, so that could very much change. Ipswich have lost 10 home games in this Premier League season, including the last 5 in a row. They only lost more than this in 1992-93 when they finished bottom of the Premier League. I suppose, and it's fortunate for Wolves in that he's suspended, because in his last 5 starts, Matheus Cunha against newly promoted sides has either scored or assisted, but this is the last game of his ban. However, the player who's come in to replace him will take his place. Strand has stepped in with 3 goals in the last 2 games, including the winner and the most recent fixture, securing all 3 points. for Wolverhampton Wanderers. Ipswich won this fixture 2-1 at Molineux early on in the season, and I'm going to take Wolves to win this one at Ipswich. So Ipswich 1, Wolves 2.
Okay, and the last of the 3 p.m. games is West Ham Bournemouth.
Well, West Ham have lost 3 of the last 4 home Premier League fixtures, failing to score in each defeat. They've now failed to score in 6 home games this season, and only in 2008 and 9 did they fail to register more often at home, and that was in 8 fixtures. They'll be buoyed by the return of striker Nicholas Fulkrug, who may help with their lack of shots on target and goals, whilst Graham Potter has been the head coach. Bournemouth haven't kept a clean sheet in their last 7 visits to the London Stadium, but have avoided defeat in 4 games where they have scored, winning 2 and drawing 2. They have now a top flight high of 30 goals away fixtures, and I fancy they'll score in this one. West Ham 1, Bournemouth 1.
Okay, and we've got the tea time game. It's Aston Villa against a Forest team who just go on and on and on after a impressive win over Manchester United in the midweek games.
Villa also had an impressive win at Brighton, leapfrogging their opponents in that particular game in the league in the chase for the Champions League positions. Villa, with 5 wins and 3 draws, are unbeaten in their last 8 home games against Forest, and they've scored at least twice in their last 7 at Villa Park against Nottingham Forest. And after a 2-1 win at the City Ground, Forest are looking to complete the league double over Villa, which would be the first since 1984-85. They have now got 13 clean sheets, which is now again equal with Liverpool, after Murillo's goal line clearance in the last minute against Manchester United. Aston Villa 2, Nottingham Forest 1.
Oh, so you're going for the wheels to fall off your hotly tipped Forest team for Champions League football, are you?
I'm not saying that they won't get qualified for Europe, but I think Villa, the form they're in, and the way that Forest play, they don't score many goals, they don't concede many goals. Not sure if their talisman striker will be fit after being injured on international duty. But I think that Villa and the form that they have had historically against Forest at Villa Park will hold sway in this fixture.
Okay, well, we'll see if your in-depth research proves to be correct. That brings us to the half-time whistle in this episode of Premier League Predictions. We're going to have a quick break, and we'll be right back after this. Hello and welcome back to the second half of this week's Premier League Predictions with 4-time Premier League winner Brian McClair, and we're on to the Sunday fixtures, and there's a batch of 2 p.m. games. The first one is our regular London derby. It's Brentford versus Chelsea.
Brian Bueno has been involved in 8 goals, 8 goals, yes, 5 goals and 3 assists in 6 Premier League away games in 2025. And he's now scored 10 out of 10 penalties, only second in Premier League history behind a certain Yaya Toure, who scored 11 from 11. Perhaps after their run was curtailed of away victories, that Brentford can address their home form, where incredibly they haven't won since December the 7th last year. Chelsea have lost their last 4 away Premier League games and haven't lost 5 away from home since 2000. Brentford won, Chelsea won.
Okay, yeah, I can see that. Don't think you get many people disagreeing with that at this stage of the season. Well, you mentioned them briefly in the first half. Next up, we've got Liverpool away to Fulham, and it's just a matter of time of when and not if, I think, now, isn't it?
Well, Fulham have won one of the last 13 Premier League games against their opponents on Sunday with 9 defeats and 3 draws. So the expectation would be for the away team to win this particular game. In their last 6 games at Craven Cottage, Liverpool are unbeaten with 4 wins and 2 draws. And I think that will remain the case. I mean, we were mentioned earlier about the Merseyside derby. I couldn't understand at the very end of the game how Darwin Núñez gets booked when he's been assaulted by the Everton referee, Everton goalkeeper. And that was another decision. I know there was talk about the Liverpool's goal being offside, but for me, when you knock the ball past the goalkeeper and the clobbers you, it's got to be a penalty. How you can get, I don't know where he gets booked for it at all, because the sound was down when I was watching it. So,
I think, in fairness to the referee, he'd blown, hadn't he, for an earlier incident, but well, that was his excuse anyway. Maybe
it's the Darwin Nunes didn't hear the whistle then. Anyway, so Liverpool perhaps on balance, we don't know, but I think that they'll win this game to put them one step closer to that record equaling Premier League championship win with a win in this game at Craven Cottage. Fulham now Liverpool 2.
Okay, 2-0 Liverpool. Popular scoreline, I'm sure. And now it's Tottenham versus Southampton.
Well, Southampton have now dropped 25 points from winning positions this season, the most of any side, failing to win 8 games after scoring first. However, they have got one more point to equal the lowest points total in Premier League history. I see that for some reason that's quite a few players and staff at Southampton have been talking about this as a particular target, which seems a bit strange, really. I don't think that they'll get this at Tottenham Stadium. And Spurs have scored in their last 15 home games against Southampton with 12 wins and 3 draws. However, Southampton have also scored in 8 of those games. Spurs 3, Southampton 1.
You're alluding to the Derby County record, lowest Premier League haul of 11 points, are you? And Southampton's target is to beat that.
Well, to beat it, isn't it? So they've got 10.
I can't imagine you're.
This, we've got, well, you look at the fixtures, and they could pick up points along the way, but a lot of the other games you're thinking possibly not, So
talk about setting your standards low. If that's the ambition of the club, I dare say that was something you never it was ever mentioned in the dressing room in your days under.
Fortunately, it was in that position, So
well,
very often anyway. So
no. Well, talking of United, it's the Derby game at Old Trafford at 4:30. I mean, a game that a while ago we would have probably written off as a City win, but this season you just don't know. United are winning games they're not expected to win, and City are hardly blowing people out of the water. So I'd be interested to know your thoughts on this one.
Well, United, as I say, of in the games that they've not been expected to win, they have done particularly well. They lacked spark, urgency and potency in attack at the City ground midweek, and they had 3 chances to stop Alanga on his 85-metre run, which ended up with a goal and turned out to be the winning goal. And United have still no successive wins in the Premier League this season, which is quite incredible. And also, disturbingly, Harry Maguire is more likely to score than Hojlund this season, according to several statistical sites. City without Haaland, who was a scorer of 2 goals in this fixture last season, that City won comfortably. But they'll be comforted by the return of Oscar Bob, who is, after breaking his leg very early on in the season, perhaps City may return again to Gundogan, who's been quite successful in several games as a false 9. United 2, City 1.
Oh, yeah. I was having you down as sitting on the fence. You might have changed your mind last minute. I'll never know. But you're going to 2-1 United.
Didn't change it last minute. I'd already put that down. So
not the shock we would have.
It just the way the United season is. I mean, again, I suppose that part of the thinking, particularly if you want to win derbies, and hopefully Amberin understands that, but you may well have an eye on the midweek fixture that's coming up that may define United's season with regards to any possibility of any success or trophy success.
You touched on that consistency there with United. Not been able to register back-to-back wins all season. That just sums it up, doesn't it? Because last time we spoke before the Forest game, they were 4 unbeaten, and we were sort of talking about this, a bit of momentum, and then it just always comes crashing down, doesn't it? And then they have to start again, and the difference between that and maybe stringing 2 or 3 wins together is massive.
Well, against Forest, I think there's some like 27 or 28 attempts at goal or shots at goal or whatever else it was, which is one of the highest that they've ever had in any Premier League fixture. However, for me, they never looked like scoring a goal up until Harry Maguire came on as a makeshift centre forward, and that was because Forest had defended with 6 men in the box, and quite rightly, Amarin understood that the only way that they were going to get any potential success was to get the ball into the box to big men in the box, and Harry Maguire is excellent in both boxes, when he's defending or when he's attacking, and they 3 little opportunities, including that one that got cleared off the line. So I'm not sure that Amarin will be playing Harry Maguire from the beginning of the game. As I said, however, as I say, the way that things have been going for the other people who have been asked to play in that position all season, you wouldn't bet against it.
Well, you see, you put your finger on it. All these hundreds of millions of pounds that various United managers have spent on strikers down the last 5, 6, 7 years, and all they should have done is put Harry Maguire up front from the start, and probably be challenging for Europe. So you heard it here first. Finally, we've got the Monday night game. It's Leicester, lowly Leicester, against a pretty high-flying Newcastle team at the minute.
Well, I mean, it must be very, very difficult for Ruud van Nistelrooy to put any kind of positive spin on things, which he has managed to do in the last half a dozen games that Leicester have played. But they've now conceded the first goal in 25 of their 30 Premier League games, surpassing Ipswich's 24 in 94-95. They haven't scored a Premier League goal since the end of January, and I think they've only scored 2 in the last 11. So there would point why they're not being in a position to gain any more points. Actually, the team that have conceded the first goal slightly less than 25 is actually Manchester United. For Newcastle, Jacob Murphy and Alexander Isak have completed 8 assists this season for goals, one behind historic leaders in that particular statistic with Messrs Andy Cole and Peter Beardsley and their partnership, who managed 9 assists in 1993-94. Can't see anything other than a away win, but I'm going to look. I think Leicester have got to score eventually. So, I mean, it's quite an incredible run that they're on of not scoring. Leicester 1, Newcastle 3.
Okay, a slight consolation for the Foxes there with a goal, if not the points. Okay, that brings us to the end of a busy week of Premier League football with this sort of double header of fixtures. We'll look on with anticipation to see if Brian is right or he's wrong or he's made some terrible mistakes, or even if Harry Maguire starts up front in the derby on Sunday. And if he does, we'll catch up with it next week on the next episode of Premier League Predictions. Until then, goodbye.